Okay, so in this video I just wanted to show a few new things that I've been working on. I've been working on quite a lot of stuff. I decided just to show it in the game, and I might show some editor stuff later. But anyway, so I guess first of all I finally added a HUD, and I decided to go pretty minimal with it. So you can see on the top and at the bottom is the HUD. So the top is the health bar and the lives, and at the bottom is the charge bar for the sword and the extra lives. So you have to gather for basically you see the ninja star at the bottom of the feet there. You have to basically gather 4 star points to the idea is to form like a full star, and then you get an extra life, and that's the indicator at the bottom left. So that's sort of, I guess, what I've decided on doing with the HUD. I wanted to keep it as, I guess, as small as possible, as off the screen as possible. I'll see if I keep this for the final thing, but I'm pretty sure that I probably will. Okay, so that's the HUD, and the menu I've added some stuff. So the main thing I've added to the menu is the skin selector, because you can unlock new skins when you play the game, and basically that's, you can just kind of go through these. And so if you don't have them, so initially you'll just have the default one, which is that one, and then all of the rest of the ones it'll just show you don't have them, and then as soon as you unlock them you can select them. When you select them you just resume and use that skin. Some other stuff, so I've added a restart game there, which I'll probably end up replacing that with just return to main menu or something, so you can go back to the main menu, because I've also added a new game plus, which so if you start a new game you'll start from scratch, but if you start new game plus then you'll start a new game, but you will have everything you unlocked through playing the game. And there's a few things you can unlock. You can unlock 4 moves and a big sword, and if you've unlocked those things and you do New Game Plus, then to get New Game Plus, of course, you have to finish the game first, and then it works like that. So so I added a restart game, but after that I decided to do New Game Plus. And now if you're busy playing New Game Plus and you want to restart, you might want to restart with a normal new game, or you want to restart with a New Game Plus, and it just makes more sense maybe to to go back to the main menu. Initially I was never going to go back to the main menu because it wasn't needed, but now it feels like it's probably needed. But anyway, so I did add that, but I'll probably replace it with go back to main. Settings wise, I've added some stuff. So you would have heard that I've got some music now in the game, and so I've got some sound effects controls and music, volume controls and stuff. These other things have been here for quite a while. I don't know if I've ever really shown them, but it's just some simple quality settings, and then the window mode. So now it's full screen, and when you're in full screen you use screen percentage to change your essentially your rendering resolution. So your HUD and stuff will always stay at your native screen resolution, but then your rendering resolution will be, you can change the percentage of that. If you go into window mode, then you will get actual window resolution settings. This will be replaced by resolution settings instead then. So the safe area, I added this just to be safe. So you can just tweak like where you want to put your HUD based on your screen edges. if for some reason your game, you know, your screen is off, you know, it's off the edges of the screen or something like that. If you're running on a TV and your TV isn't set to be full pixel, you know, to render full pixels or whatever. It's just one of those things, just a little safety thing. I'll actually show how that works. So I can bring in the HUD, apply that, and now the HUD is all, you know, is zoomed in a bit basically. Yeah, so I guess that's the menu stuff and the HUD. Of course, the HUD and stuff will update as you play. Pretty, you know, pretty standard stuff. Like I said, so I've started adding music, and I've started adding more sound effects, and I've got the foot sound effects. So I've got basically 2 sound effects, which is for sand, and also, of course, the particle effects. And then on the rocks, it's a different sound effect. So I still have a little bit of dust even on the rocks, just to show the impact of the feet. But the sand dust is much more. Much better voice, so the Ninja voice, like the ones I had when I created the demo was pretty bad, but I kept them in there just to have something. And yeah, so I've got a hit sound. So I don't have enemy voice yet, so those sounds will stay. I'm not replacing those. When I did the demo, those were the sounds I worked on the most, so they're the most complete, and I probably will end up using those. I don't have sound for this yet. So this sound also is going to stay. I like it good enough. So finally have some pot breaking sounds, and then I also have, like when you kick the pieces around, they'll do impact sounds, and then they'll also do sliding sounds. Like I tried to set up a system where when they roll they do impact, and when they slide they do slide sounds. So there's the, and then I've got the health sound as well, the health pickup sound as well. So there you can hear the sound, the slide sound, and then when I just kick it, I make kind of just a little knocking noise. Tried not to go too overboard with it, so it doesn't become like, you know, the only thing you hear in the game. Because there's a bunch of pots to come back, and then got that sound. Got some basic sound for everything, and you know, whether I keep tweaking them, we'll see. I'm getting in essentially the first pass. So I've got this here. This is the skin pickup. So when you break enough pots, you'll get a little, just like you get those other stuff, you'll get the skin pickup things spawning in. And so I've just got it here just to test out the sound, which I kind of had a weird idea for it. It may or may not work well, but it probably wasn't very easy to hear that. But anyway, it's supposed to play like just like a little guitar thing. You can hear the Ninja voice is, if you've ever heard any of the demo sounds, you will know how bad the Ninja voice was always before. It's a lot better now. I have basically 3 attack sounds, I think. Or 3 sounds, or 4 sounds, 4 main voice for the Ninja, which is which I call short attack, which is that one, and then long attack, which is the combo one, and then the combo finisher or the heavy attack one, which is that one. and then of course the jump, and then getting a hit like that. So it's interesting. I tried doing variations on all of them, and it's very tough to make that work actually. I don't know if it's like a sort of a predisposed, because of years and years of arcade games and stuff like that, where you have these repetitive sound effects and things, but it's almost like that's what it needs to be to sound right. So yeah, I ended up essentially just like that, like it's the same sound and it's just it's like pitched differently and stuff like that, you know, on a random thing. And the same with these sounds, it's basically the same. It's very weird when I try and do variation on that, how it doesn't work as well for me for some reason. But anyway, and then I've added sound effect for this. It's still similar to the other sound, like I try and keep a consistency on things. So I do some extra overlapping sound effects for various things. So there's the sliding sound, and then when they roll they do the knocking sound. Now that was kind of hard to get it right, because there isn't a default system that does that on the fracture pieces. There's a basic impact sound and that's it. So you kind of have to set up the blueprint where you get the hit event, and the hit event will essentially keep getting called as the thing moves and touches something. And so you can use that and the velocity of the thing, the actual movement velocity and the rotation, I can't remember exactly what they call that, and try and make your thing work a little bit differently, you know. So that's what I try to do. Like if it doesn't rotate much, then I play the sliding sound, and it's actually a looping sound that I will start and stop based on whether the thing's moving. And the knocking sound will just get called when the thing rotates too much, or falls first. I can't remember exactly the setup that I did for that, but yeah, it's a little bit of a setup, and then I also have to iterate through the pieces to actually do it on that specific piece. So it's a little bit more involved system than you might think before you do it. You might think that you can just go into the fracture pieces and create, you know, and add the sound effect, and it's just gonna, you know, do stuff for you, but it doesn't really. You have to create a thing for it. As far as I could figure out anyway. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think so. Yeah, so like I mentioned, the other thing is like the footsteps. So I also actually have footsteps in the sand, and I decided to do it in a way where I can keep them around, because I like seeing the history of them. I don't want to stand there and then I just watch them one by one disappear. I don't really like that, and I don't mind, like, there's a limitation to them, so if you run around enough, even in one spot, then eventually you will see them starting fading away. And so also what I did was I created a single footprint system that will create footprints for the player and the enemies, and the footprint system also takes care of the foot effects for the enemies, so the enemies will leave prints and they will kick up dust. Currently they don't do sound effects because I don't want all that overlapping footstepping sounds. I will probably keep that to the player. It's a little bit more focused that way. But as far as the graphical goes, you want to see when you run through the sand and you see footprints, you want to see footprints when the enemy walks through the sand as well. That only makes sense. You don't really miss the sound that much. It's just one of those things. Yeah, so I've also added that tablet pop-up that shows you how many tablets you have and how many tablets you still need. Just in case you miss some in the beginning, then you know you missed them. Otherwise you'll never even know that you missed them. That's the only reason why I do that. So you can see now the enemy kicks up dust and leaves footprints. And it's basically just I have a blueprint in the level that spawns footprints, and everybody calls to that blueprint and just spawns a footprint if needed, and all the footprints are total. So I have that cutting sound, which is just pretty funny, but it's very unique, so it stands out. You know when you've been cut. Because sometimes, like without the sound effects, it's kind of weird. It's like now that I've added sound effects, like things come, like it is much more noticeable. Like when you get hit and when you get cut and stuff like that. Like before, it would just go by and you don't even realize you've been cut by the guy. But yeah, like the footprint system is like just a single blueprint that takes care of all the footprints in the game. Maximum, I think I've put it to a maximum of 100 footprints or 80 or something like that, and the system will just take care of that and delete the last ones, basically fade them out. Otherwise they'll sit around. Like if no new footprints are being spawned, then none of the old ones will fade out and they'll just kind of stick around, which I like. And then for the enemies, that same blueprint also will spawn the dust effects, whereas with the ninja that's all done inside the ninja blueprint, because the ninja is only one character and I can just keep the particle system live for that. Basically the dust for the enemies is only one, it's also only one particle system, and it just respawns new particles each time a foot calls for it. So as the enemy walks, it calls for the particle system and the footprint, and the particle system will move there, spawn a few particles, and then the next foot will call it, the system will move there, spawn a few particles, and so on and so on. And so essentially just one system being used for every dust for every enemy, the whole, in the game basically. So it's much cheaper, I feel like, doing it that way instead of spawning a new system for each foot, for each enemy, which is quite a lot. It can get even more than these ones, because a little later on there's more enemies. And when you do New Game Plus as well, I essentially double the enemies up to a point. So if there's already a lot of enemies, then they won't double, but if there weren't a lot to begin with, then they will double at least. You can see the bar at the bottom for the HUD. It's now also purple, and you might have noticed as I was playing it will fill up. The health bar goes down, you see the red and the green, of course, pretty typical. Did a special sound for that because I also added that sort of pushing the air kind of effect, like pushing the air away, pushing, like that sort of impact effect, and sound effect to go along with that. Just got cut up, and then I've also got the respawning sound effect there. So I've done, and this is part of there's so many things that that I work on that I don't even think about, but it's little tweaks and things. Something I don't think I've shown, but it's like a little thing that I did. It's just basically speed up the these two attacks, these small attacks. Just basically speed up the beginning, the actual attack, not the follow through. The follow through is still the same speed. And it's just as much, it's just more snappy, you know, it just feels better, even though essentially the animation is still the same length, or very similar length. It's like the first 5 frames only got sped up by double the amount. And what allowed me to do that was really just because I replaced my attack collision system a while back, quite a while back actually. Probably about a year ago, maybe something like that, maybe a little, yeah, maybe around there. Replaced it with a tracing system, so now it traces basically the arc of the sword, and it's much more accurate instead of the overlapping system, which, you know, could basically have a lot of misses, and especially if the thing moved too fast. And so my attacks were kind of limited based on my attack speed was limited based on the collision system back then, like before I changed it. But now, since it's being traced, I can make it essentially as fast as I like, as long as there's enough keyframes to represent the full motion of the animation for each position of the sword, which is pretty fast. I mean, it's basically superhuman fast. And it's still 100% accurate in hit detection. Yeah, it's all that kind of stuff, you know. It's like this jump attack, you know, adding the effects, adding and updating other effects for like the mini boss and stuff like that. I've also replaced that fully charged sound effect. So now it's a much better sound effect. Yeah, so I just wanted to show some of the stuff that I did recently. Even though it's a small part of the stuff that I've done, I've been doing a lot. The reason why I've moved into sound effects is because I feel like I'm essentially done with the game. If nothing else, pretty close. You know, if I spot something that I feel like I need to work on, then I will. I won't just cut off, like, you know, like cut it off and say, like, okay, now I'm done and I'm not doing anything. Even if I see something worth doing, I will still do it, but I'm basically done with everything as far as I can tell, you know, except for spotting things during playtesting. But yeah, pretty happy with how things feel, how things look. Starting to get happy with how things sound. Getting sound effects in is so cool. It's you know, finally at that point, it feels good. But anyway, yeah, so I just wanted to show a few things, and I guess that's it. So yeah, anybody made it this far, thanks for watching. Appreciate the people that kind of keeps track of my game. It's been a long time coming, but you know, it's getting there. It's getting there. Pretty close. Not too much longer. And yep, so that's it.